In a country replete with more guns than citizens, in a country with an epidemic of gun violence, in a country where there's no pile of dead children too high that Republicans would demur from their love and lust and obsession with guns. We know Trump to be many things: a liar, a pig, an anti-democratic ghoul, a violator of the Constitution, and a grifter. Trump's a grifter. Trump is doing the very thing he accused the Bidens of doing, which is richly profiting. Exorbitant wealth is being hoarded, is being maintained by the Donald Trump family using the presidency. And I don't mean just like trafficking off the Trump name because he's the president of the United States, the thing they accuse Hunter Biden of doing, the thing I think Hunter Biden probably did do, use his father's name to make money. Donald Trump is profiting off of the presidency itself, selling items that are using the presidential seal illegally. It is a federal crime to use the presidential seal in any way other than being the president of the United States. And to profit off it, to sell guns in this case, handguns, using the presidential seal, it is what it is. He's profiting off of using the presidential seal. Anyway, this is a remarkable story. Woke up to this with Aaron Rupar. Tweeted out this video that Fox now is running commercials for Trump guns. The living legend, DT47. Watch this.
In honor of Donald Trump's amazing comeback election victory to become our 47th president, Bond Arms is introducing an impressive new handgun, the living legend DT47. Find out how you can save $100 on the new DT47 from Bond Arms. Take advantage of the Bond Arms 30th Anniversary Summer Special. Buy any Bond Arms handgun and get up to a $50 gift card. Go to getbondarms.com. That's getbondarms.com.
Now, I already spoiler alerted the whole thing. I spoiled it. What they don't tell you in that little commercial is when you go to the website, you can check out the DT47 satin package. And when you click on it, you see that the weapon, the pistol, the .45 caliber, it comes along with a holster that is emblazoned with, that has the presidential seal embedded into the weapon. So this would lead any normal, rational, reasonable person to recognize that this is a product that is endorsed by not Donald Trump himself, but the presidency of the United States of America. And upon further reflection, I was like, this can't be. This is illegal. This can't be. So I looked around, found a video that this isn't just a botched Photoshop job of some random staffer in marketing who's just getting ahead of his skis a little bit. No. Here is someone who represents the company, ostensibly, I guess, the owner of the company, who's talking about the presidential seal as a selling point.
Hey guys, Gordon Bond here. We are now introducing the satin, highly polished DT47. The original DT47 has been a runaway bestseller for us. And so we wanted to do one where it's fully polished like we used to do all of our guns. And just to show you the beauty of this, here's both sides of the gun. Just to let you pan in there just for a second. And so this special gun actually comes with a very special custom presidential holster. And what a beautiful package. People have been going nuts over this. So check it out on the website. This is going to be a limited run and only available for a limited time. So get yours while you can.
And this is where the law comes in, since we are a nation of laws and Donald Trump is the law and order president, is he not? I would draw your attention to 18 U.S. Code Section 713. This deals with use of likenesses of the Great Seal of the United States, the seals of the president and the vice president, and then also Congress and the Senate and the House of Representatives. That's what this particular federal law, 18 U.S. Code Section 713, deals with, where they talk about whoever knowingly displays any printed or other likeness of the Great Seal of the United States or of the seals of the President or the Vice President of the United States or any facsimile thereof in or in connection with any advertisement, poster, circular, book, pamphlet, or other publication, public meeting, play, motion picture, telecast, or other production, or on any building, monument, or stationery for the purposes of conveying, or in manner reasonably calculated to convey, a false impression of sponsorship or approval by the government of the United States or by any department, agency, or instrumentality thereof, shall be fined under this or imprisoned not more than 6 months, or both. So naturally, you would think that this absolutely does convey a sponsorship, that the presidency of these United States is sponsoring the DT47 handgun. In a country replete with more guns than citizens, in a country with an epidemic of gun violence, in a country where there's no pile of dead children too high that Republicans would demur from their love and lust and obsession with guns. You would think that this seems sponsored, does it not? It's either that they are breaking the law, they are violating federal law, again, 18 U.S. Code, Section 713, or Donald Trump did give the explicit permission to this company to use the presidential seal to profit from the presidency. This is Section B. Whoever, except as authorized under regulations promulgated by the president and published in the Federal Register, those things would have to have been done here, knowingly manufactures, reproduces, sells, or purchases for resale, either separately or appended to any article manufactured or sold, any likeness of the seals of the president or vice president, or any substantial part thereof, except for manufacture or sale of the article for the use, the official use of the government of the United States, shall be fined under this or imprisoned not more than 6 months or both. So the question is this particular privately sold, certainly licensed by the Trump organization, did they get the permission to use our presidential seal, the presidential seal of we the people, or are they doing it illegally? Either way is unacceptable. Either way, it is not. If they got permission, we got a problem. If they're using it without the permission of Donald Trump while profiting him, while he's under whatever licensing agreement, we've got a problem. Either way, this is a problem. I will throw it to you with all of this information. What do you think?
The president and the vice president, for that matter, have accused the other side of encouraging political violence. Isn't that exactly what the president is doing when he says that members of Congress should be killed?
Why aren't you talking about what these members of Congress are doing?
That's not a denial. This section of the press briefing yesterday, another press briefing where it's somebody rambling on and on who's not the press secretary for half the thing, and then Linda McMahon, the education secretary, the woman who is endeavoring to destroy the education department of the United States, she leaves, and as Caroline Leavitt takes a couple questions. Really just a handful of questions for just a few minutes. But it ended like this, with her running out of the room, trying to get away from the lies that she just told and the truths and the corrections that were being made in real time. Watch this.
And so I'm going to go up to that meeting, and you will hear more about that later. Thank you.
You misquoted Democrats in that video. That's actually not what they said.
So here we are. I'm going to share with you what led to her retreat, to her practically running out of the room. And it is all about Donald Trump's threat to murder. If you kill unjustifiably, it is murder. To murder members of Congress who have admonished members of the military to follow legal orders, to not follow, by extension on the other side of it, to not follow unlawful or illegal orders from Donald Trump, the Secretary of Defense, and commanders. Seems reasonable, does it not? Well, Donald Trump, as we talked about yesterday, said that they should be hung. He reposted ghouls who have no understanding of the law or what treason is or what sedition is, who are saying, just hang them, that's what George Washington would do. And he retweeted it. She was asked about this. Very plainly, some of these questions. Does the president want to execute members of Congress? And her answer, no surprise, you will find, is replete with lies, not just distortion, outright lies.
Nancy.
Thanks, Caroline. This morning, President Trump accused 6 Democratic lawmakers of seditious behavior punishable by death. Just to be clear, does the president want to execute members of Congress?
No. Let's be clear about what the president is responding to, because many in this room want to talk about the president's response, but not what brought the president to responding in this way. You have sitting members of the United States Congress who conspired together to orchestrate a video message to members of the United States military, to active duty service members, to members of the national security apparatus, encouraging them to defy the president's lawful orders.
Well, that's not true. That's not true at all. They in no way encouraged them to defy the president's lawful orders. In fact, many times in the video, more than once, 3, 4, 5 times, I don't know how many, I haven't counted them, they specifically say, let me get it right here, you can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law or our Constitution.
We know this is hard and that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
The Army,
Our Navy,
the Air Force,
your vigilance is critical.
and know that we have your back.
Because now, more than ever,
The American people need you. We need you to stand up for our laws.
our Constitution,
and who we are as Americans. Don't give up.
don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up the ship.
That was just part 1 of multiple parts of the clip that I'm going to play here. Her lies continue. They get more just brazen. She's standing before a room filled with people who know what the facts are. She's being broadcast to a nation that knows what the facts are, and she continues to just tell clear, plain, wild lies to the American people.
The sanctity of our military rests on the chain of command. And if that chain of command is broken, it can lead to people getting killed. It can lead to chaos. And that's what these members of Congress who swore an oath to abide by the Constitution are essentially encouraging. We have 1.3 active duty service members in this country. And if they hear this radical message from sitting members of Congress, that could inspire chaos, and it could incite violence, and it certainly could disrupt the chain of command. These 3 members of Congress, I will also add, knew exactly what they were doing. You look at Alyssa Slotkin. She's a former member of the CIA. Mark Kelly was a captain in the U.S. Navy. Maggie Goodlander was a naval officer, and notably, she is also the wife of Joe Biden's national security former advisor, Jake Sullivan. And so these members knew what they were doing. They were leading into their credentials as former members of our military, as veterans, as former members of the national security apparatus to signal to people serving under this commander-in-chief, Donald Trump, that you can defy him and you can betray your oath of office. That is a very, very dangerous message, and it perhaps is punishable by law. I'm not a lawyer. I'll leave that to the Department of Justice and the Department of War to decide.
She's a little rattled. I think that what she meant to say, she says, and it perhaps is punishable by law. Anything relative to the law would be punishable by law. We can only surmise that what she meant to say is, it perhaps is punishable by death. the press secretary for the President of the United States, just putting out, oh, maybe it is punishable by death. I'm not a lawyer. I'll leave that to the Department of Justice in the Department and the Department of War to decide. It would not be up to the Defense Department, the Pentagon, Pete Hegseth, to determine whether they should be put to death for their crime of telling military members to follow lawful orders. Why would it be up to the Department of Defense, Caroline Leavitt? This is not saying no. This is not denying that Donald Trump wants them to. She did say at the very beginning of this that, no, let's be clear about what the president is responding to. We don't need to be clear about what the president is responding to, Caroline Leavitt. We've seen the minute and 12-second video. I just played 40 seconds of it. We know what they said. They're not talking about not following Donald Trump's lawful orders. No one's talking about that. We're talking about unlawful orders.
But the president has
Chris,
frequently, but Caroline, can I just follow up? The president and the vice president, for that matter, have accused the other side of encouraging political violence. Isn't that exactly what the president is doing when he says that members of Congress should be killed?
Why aren't you talking about what these members of Congress are doing?
That's not a denial.
To encourage and incite violence. They are literally saying to 1.3 million active duty service members not to defy the chain of command, not to follow lawful orders.
Actually,
Every
they said
single
you can refuse an illegal order, which
but
is
they're suggesting, Nancy, that the president has given illegal orders, which he has not. Every single order that is given to this United States military by this commander-in-chief and through this chain of command, through the Secretary of War, is lawful. And the courts have proven that. This administration has an unparalleled record at the Supreme Court because we are following the laws. We don't defy court orders. We do things by the books. And to suggest and encourage that active duty service members defy the chain of command is a very dangerous thing for sitting members of Congress to do. And they should be held accountable. And that's what the president wants to see. Phil.
I talk a lot about how oftentimes what is not said speaks more clearly and plainly than what is said. And in her not denying, the question being, isn't that exactly what the president is doing when he says that members of Congress should be killed, is inciting political violence? And she says, why aren't you talking about these members of Congress? In no way, under any circumstance, any reasonable person could come to the conclusion that the Alyssa Slotkin, Mark Kelly, Jason Crow, and others' video is inciting violence. It is instructing, hey, listen, you took an oath to the Constitution, honor that oath. You should not be following illegal orders if indeed one is given. And for her to act like all of this is above board and they've never broken the law, when federal judge after federal judge after federal judge have said your military occupation of the United States cities is unlawful. It is illegal. I've showed these headlines. I'm going to end it with this. The final moment when she ends up storming out of the room. The question that was asked of her is whether or not the president thinks that any order he gives is lawful. No matter what the order is, no matter if his legal experts might think it's legal, that it's illegal, does the president expect those officials to go ahead with the orders regardless of any outside thinking? That is the question. Watch this.
Information. Brian.
Thank you, Caroline. Two questions. We were talking about earlier in this briefing about the president's orders. You were going back and forth about what the ad said and what it didn't say. My first question is
the ad,
the advertisement that the Senate Democrats were featured in. So the first question is, no matter what the order is, it could be to any administration official, military or otherwise. No matter if legal experts might think it's illegal, does the president expect those cabinet members, administration officials to go ahead with those orders regardless of any outside thinking or experts?
The president expects his cabinet officials in the administration to follow the law and to demand accountability and hold people accountable for their dangerous rhetoric. And I would just add that if this were Republican members of Congress who were encouraging members of the military and members of our United States government to defy orders from the president and from the chain of command, this entire room would be up in arms. But instead, It is the other way around, and I think that's quite telling. I'm going to let you all go because the president, excuse me, I appreciate the encouragement this morning, but this afternoon. But President Trump is about to meet in minutes with Israeli hostages who this administration freed, and so I'm going to go up to that meeting, and you will hear more about that later. Thank you.
You misquoted Democrats in that video. That's actually not what they said.
Why would anyone be up in arms over an elected official saying, hey, I'm a former military member. I'm a former member of the intelligence community. Please only follow lawful orders. Why would anyone be up in arms about that, Caroline Levitt? Oh, wait, I can't ask her that she ran away. There's no way she will answer the question. She darted out of the room in full retreat because they are cowards. Donald Trump is the bully that manifested itself in his formative years, and he never stopped being that guy. And like many bullies, he is just a weakling. He is nothing but bluster. Unfortunately, he does now carry with him, he is imbued with the power of the presidency and by a rogue Supreme Court that says he could deploy SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival and be immune from prosecution. This is the kind of power that the Supreme Court has saw fit to give to the worst person in the country. I would say second worst, but Jeffrey Epstein's dead, so it only leaves his best friend of 15 years, Donald Trump. What do you think? I invite you to this conversation. Let's talk about it in the comments. Please make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. That is free. Like and follow the Facebook page. That is also free. It's Dollemore Daily over there. And you can comment below. Engagement means a lot. I would appreciate it. You can also call the voicemail line, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me, daily@dollemore.com.
So I think the president being frank and open and honest to your faces, rather than hiding behind your backs, is frankly a lot more respectful than what you saw in the last administration.
Caroline Levitt believes everyone in the press should appreciate being called a piggy by official pig Donald Trump. That's what she said yesterday in the press briefing room when asked about what did the president mean when he called the reporter piggy. One, lazy question. That's not the question that should be asked. It's not what did he mean. It's why does fat, gross, credibly accused rapist of children, pig Donald Trump, believe he has any right, any room to call anyone a name like Piggy aboard Air Force One, as president of the United States, as the most powerful human being on the planet politically, not physically? That's the question. And it was answered in the most ridiculous fashion. That wasn't the question. That was my question. Her question was, what did he mean by it? And Caroline Levitt put on a masterclass asshole performance that you're getting ready to witness. And before we get to that clip, let's play a little game. This is a 1 minute and 11 second clip, right? Her answer is 58 seconds long. How many times do you think she can cram in the word frank or frankly in 58 seconds? Let's throw up the frank counter and let's get to work counting them. Watch the answer. Again, the question, what did the president mean when he called the reporter a piggy on Air Force One?
Natalie.
Thank you, Caroline. What did the president mean when he called the reporter piggy?
Look, the president is very frank and honest with everyone in this room. You've all seen it yourself. You've all experienced it yourselves, and I think it's one of the many reasons that the American people reelected this president, because of his frankness. And he calls out fake news when he sees it. He gets frustrated with reporters when you lie about him, when you spread fake news about him and his administration. But he also is the most transparent president in history. And he gives all of you in this room, as you all know, unprecedented access You are in the Oval Office almost every day asking the president questions. And so I think the president being frank and open and honest to your faces rather than hiding behind your backs is frankly a lot more respectful than what you saw in the last administration, where you had a president who lied to your face and then didn't speak to you for weeks and hid upstairs and didn't take your questions. So I think everyone in this room should appreciate the frankness and the openness that you get from President Trump on a near daily basis.
And
go ahead.
As a follow-up,
yes.
The Washington Post just reported that the Coast Guard has.
I'm calling on Bloomberg. Go ahead.
Talk about pre-formulated answers when you know you're going to be facing down this question. That the president is very frank. The American people reelected him because of his frankness. And I think the president being frank and open, rather than hiding behind your backs, is frankly blah, blah, blah. So I appreciate the frankness. It's a lot of frank. Is Donald Trump trying to change his name to Frank? By the way, all of that's nonsense. All of that is nonsense, especially as he calls out fake news when he sees it. He gets frustrated with reporters when you lie about him. This is the thing that they do. They never actually explain where he was lied on. What lie was told? What reporting has been incorrect? Donald Trump has to scrape and figure out some way to get networks to pay him, settle out of court because they're afraid, like ABC and CBS. So he says they deceptively edited this interview with Kamala Harris. The same thing they do with him every single time he's interviewed. Every time they edit it. Because his answers are meandering and incomprehensible. You can't understand him. He does the weave where he starts rambling about magnets and windmills and all the other bullshit, how much toilet flush pressure there is. He's an idiot, so they have to edit around it. But with him, that's just the way it works. With anybody else, it's election interference. But tell me when they've lied. What have they lied? That's not a lie. That's the way news is done. That's the way video editing gets done. He calls out the fake news when you lie about him, when you spread fake news about him and his administration, but he is also the most transparent president in the world. He's the greatest man who's ever lived. He has the most bulbous, giant phallus that we all should just admire. He is not at all accused of raping children. He is not violating the Constitution on a daily basis. He has not increased his net worth by orders of magnitude since this second term began. No. He's a public servant who loves his job, and he just really wants the truth to be told. That's why he called a professional reporter, asking him a very normal question, a very justified question, and got called a piggy for it. If you don't remember, here's that moment.
Sir, if there's nothing incriminating in the file,
So where's the fake news, Caroline Levitt? All she asked was, if there's nothing incriminating in the files, sir, why not release them? Quiet, piggy. Tell me that you're guilty without saying the words, I'm guilty. So I think everyone this is really the one that got me. I think everyone in this room should really appreciate when he calls you a piggy. She called it the frankness. It's a hell of a way to say calling people names, creating a hostile work environment. Here's what needs to happen, by the way. Here's what needs to happen by way of these reporters, these journalists. If I had my magic wand, if I was king of the reporters for a day, this is the rule I would put in place. As soon as Donald Trump starts being abusive, you walk away. You leave. As soon as Caroline Levitt is abusive in the press briefing room, you get up and you walk out of the room. The press is a necessary function of the Donald Trump propaganda dissemination machine. If they're not there, how is Donald Trump going to get his lies out to a mass audience? He needs them. He knows he needs them. And he knows that they feel some compulsion to be abused by him. I don't get it. I'm not going to sit there while I'm on the job and be demeaned, be yelled at is one thing, but the name calling from the president, he's not some dipshit YouTuber. He's the president of the United States. He should fucking act accordingly. But he does not have the ability to do so. And then I'll end it with this. Did you see the question there? I left it in, that she avoided like the plague. And that is what I'm going to talk about next. The Coast Guard deciding that a swastika, they've since retracted the policy, that a swastika is not a hate symbol, that a noose isn't a hate symbol. What do you think about all of this? I throw this to you. We can have a conversation in the comments below the video, wherever you're watching it, whether that be Facebook or YouTube. Make sure you're connected to the page on Facebook. Like and follow the Dollemore Daily. You can subscribe on YouTube. I would appreciate it very much. This quote is really something here. Quote, "We don't deserve the trust of the nation if we're unclear about the divisiveness of swastikas," the official said, speaking on the condition of anonymity because of fear of reprisal. This person fears retribution from the Donald Trump administration if he says, yeah, swastikas are bad. Jesse, you can't call people racist. It loses its meaning when you call people racist who aren't racist. You're being exaggerative when you say that the Republican Party is the largest white supremacist organization on the planet. Stop being an exaggerator. All you're trying to do is gin up clicks, right? That's what I hear all the time about the Trump administration. Donald Trump's not a racist. Not everybody you don't like is a racist. And then we find out a since retracted policy. It only took hours after the Washington Post broke this story, that the U.S. Coast Guard will no longer classify swastikas, nooses as hate symbols. The military service, which falls under Kristi Noem's Department of Homeland Security, has drafted a new policy that classifies such items as potentially divisive. This is a policy engineered for Nazis, for neo-Nazis, for white nationalists, for white supremacists generally. Because the only person who would be offended at the banning of a swastika is a fucking Nazi. The only person who thinks that it is okay to display a noose, the symbol of violence against black people in this country for centuries, is a white supremacist, is someone who wants to intimidate a fellow guardsman, or whatever the Coast Guard are called. By the way, you will note that this isn't even trying to be put forward as a policy inside of Pete Hegseth's Department of Defense. This is the Homeland Security Department, the same department that is the umbrella organization that is over ICE, where the masked secret police Nazi Gestapo are kidnapping people off the streets of the United States without due process, refusing to identify themselves, using someone's ethnicity, the way they look, or the language they're speaking, or the accent they speak English with, as a precursor to detainment and arrest. Yeah, but that's not racism. It's not white supremacy, Jesse. Please. Let's start with the retraction. This is again the Washington Post. In reversal, Coast Guard again classifies swastikas, nooses as hate symbols. The new order came hours after the Post reported the service would instead classify such symbols as potentially divisive under guidelines set for release next month. This was such a sensitive issue yesterday that when asked about it, I played this in my previous topic, that when asked about it, Caroline Leavitt got aggressive to get away from the question. Like, I'm talking to Bloomberg. I'm not asking you the question. Watch this.
And
Go ahead.
Let's follow up.
Yes.
The Washington Post just reported that the Coast Guard has.
I'm calling on Bloomberg. Go ahead.
Caroline, thank you. 2 questions for you. The New York Times is reporting.
And this is the story that she was so keen on not addressing. Again, the headline from the Washington Post, U.S. Coast Guard will no longer classify swastikas, nooses as hate symbols. The U.S. Coast Guard will no longer classify the swastika, an emblem of fascism and white supremacy inextricably linked to the murder of millions of Jews and the deaths of more than 400,000 U.S. troops who died fighting in World War II, as a hate symbol. according to a new policy that takes effect next month. Instead, the Coast Guard will classify the Nazi-era insignia as potentially divisive under its new guidelines. The policy, set to take effect December 15th, similarly downgrades the classification of nooses and the Confederate flag, the flag of traitors to the Republic, the flag of people who took up arms against their country. Traitors. No, it's not hate, it's heritage. Yeah, morons. Traitors. Still, if you have loyalty to the Confederacy, you're a traitor to this republic. You are a traitor to the United States of America. You are a traitor to humanity for supporting a movement, an organization, a military movement that killed Americans in order to secure the ownership of human beings under law. Sickening. Again here, similarly downgrades the classification of nooses and the Confederate flag, though display of the latter remains banned, according to documents reviewed by the Washington Post. Certain historical displays or artwork where the Confederate flag is a minor element are still permissible, according to the policy. You see, although the Coast Guard is considered the military, before 9/11, it was a part of the Department of Transportation. So there isn't the military history and background and culture that has been developed over the course of 250 years because they were Department of Transportation. Now they are the military, although they are run under the Department of Homeland Security, which is clearly a white supremacist organization run by neo-Nazis. Donald Trump has seen fit to put all kinds of neo-Nazis, racists, white supremacists, avowed people who have written horrible, divisive, racist things about blacks and brown people in this country. Though, and I guess this addresses what I just talked about, though the Coast Guard is not a part of the Defense Department, the service has been reworking its policies to align with the Trump administration's changing tolerances for hazing and harassment within the U.S. military. In September, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth directed a review and overhaul of these policies, calling the military's existing standards overly broad and saying they jeopardize troops' combat readiness. Yeah, because there's nothing that makes our military more ready to fight in battle, more ready to represent our nation on a battlefield than being able to display swastikas and nooses and symbols of hate and violence and fascism. Symbols that represent a deep-seated hatred, a violent, vitriolic, venomous hatred toward black people and gays and Jews. Yeah. Pete Hegseth, tip of the spear for racism in this country. A Coast Guard official who had seen the new wording called the policy changes chilling. And this, like, before I get to this quote, this gives me, it buoys my spirit a little bit. It gives me a little bit of confidence that there are still people in Donald Trump's military who see things clearly, who understand using a historical lens that this is only dangerous. This quote is really something here. Quote, "We don't deserve the trust of the nation if we're unclear about the divisiveness of swastikas," the official said, speaking on the condition of anonymity because of fear of reprisal. This person fears retribution from the Donald Trump administration if he says, yeah, swastikas are bad. The symbol of fascism is now fashionable again, not under a Biden administration, not under an Obama administration, or Clinton, or even George W. Bush, George H.W. Bush, name one of them. No, Donald Trump, the man who bristles at, you can't call me a fascist. That's political violence language. The guy who demands you not call him a fascist is making acceptable symbols of fascism. Gotcha. 100%. I gotcha. We see you, Donald Trump. America is waking up to who you are. Even Republicans There are certainly a swath of Republicans that will be outraged by this. People who understand the reasons for our fighting, our participating in World War II to vanquish fascism, to kill on sight fascists on the battlefield. That's what you do with fascists. Historically, that's what we've done with fascists and fascism. Kill it. I invite you to this conversation. Let's have it in the comments below the video. You can also call the voicemail line 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. Look, as a veteran of the United States Marine Corps, this sickens me. As a human being who has dedicated his life and occupation to the prospect of social justice, I don't think social justice, being a social justice warrior, if you use social justice as an invective or some kind of an insult or a pejorative, you're a piece of shit or just an ignorant who doesn't understand the aspirational values that are chronicled in our Constitution. Equal justice under the law, equal protection under the law. The 14th Amendment is clear. If you've sworn an oath to the Constitution to protect it against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and you don't recognize that part of that oath is an oath to the 14th Amendment, I don't know what to tell you.
There is not a single woman who has said, yes, I was trafficked by Epstein to Trump. There's one who says Trump walked into a house with Epstein and allegedly fondled her upon meeting her. Okay, that's what the best they have so far.
It is amazing to me, shocking to me, disgusting to me, the lengths to which people will go to justify Donald Trump's crimes against women and allegedly against children. Megyn Kelly on her show, she wants you to know, look, Donald Trump, it's fine. Everything's fine. He did nothing wrong. All he is a fondler of women against their will. Without their consent, he's fondling women. If that's all they got, good luck, or whatever she says. The interesting part is, she has Buck Sexton, balloon head moron extraordinaire, on the show talking about this. And the bizarre thing is they begin the segment asking all the right questions. Why did Donald Trump change his mind? Why did he flip-flop on this? Why was he so opposed to the release of the Epstein files that he brought in Lauren Boebert to the Situation Room? Not just a random meeting in a conference room inside the West Wing. No. They put her in the Situation Room, a secured facility, to talk to her about changing her signature on the discharge petition, and which led to the vote. They're asking all the right questions. They just come to the worst conclusions. First, watch the right questions being asked.
Why do you think Trump reversed himself after, like, literally a week and a half ago, was called Lauren Boebert, Republican, into the Situation Room to reportedly lean into her to not vote for this Jeffrey Epstein file release bill that was making its way through the House? Like, he was picking on individual Republicans to get them not to vote for it. She wouldn't agree. And then within hours, Trump did a 180 saying, I'm in favor of it. Now I'm in favor of it, which led to a near unanimous passage of the bill in the House, and then a unanimous passage of the bill in the Senate, which prior to that reversal, there's a question about whether it would even get a vote in the Senate. Now it not only got a vote, it passed immediately last night. Now it's headed for his desk where he says he's going to sign it. And I have my own theory on why he did the 180 and what's going to be withheld, because he does control the DOJ that's got these files. But what's your take on it?
You know, in argumentation, in this arena, there's a turn of phrase called fairness and charity. You should offer someone fairness and charity to their argument, that they're not acting out of good faith. I'm not very good at this because I understand the malign underlying motivations of these types of people. So I'm not going to offer Megyn Kelly fairness and charity in this. But as part of that, she's only offering fairness and charity to the worst characters in the Republican Party. She offers no fairness and charity to Democrats who are attempting to hold accountable people who have committed grave, sinister crimes against children. But she'll offer all the fairness and charity to Donald Trump. All the benefit of the doubt she can offer, it goes to Donald Trump. It's reserved for the dear leader, for her king, for her cult leader. Because the conclusions they come to are ridiculous, where she justifies what took place, saying, well, if that's all they got, that he's just groping and fondling women against their will. Watch this.
There is not a single woman who has said, yes, I was trafficked by Epstein to Trump. There's one who says Trump walked into a house with Epstein and allegedly fondled her upon meeting her. Okay, that's the best they have so far. And they're waiting for some sort of smoking gun in these materials. So I think Trump did his 180 because he had to. He knew he was going to lose it. Like the Republicans were determined to vote yes on this.
His base was demanding
so
it too, Megan. Finally, his base was like, no, we need this. And so he said, okay.
But he doesn't mind flipping the bird to his base. You know, he's quick to remind them, I'm the boss here.
That's the best they've got so far, Megyn Kelly? Even if that is the best, it's not the best they've got so far. But even if it were, it's enough. It's enough. We do not deserve a president who gropes women against their will. Groping, fondling, it's assault. It is sexual assault. It's what too many of these men in power do flagrantly. The Donald Trumps of the world, the Jeffrey Epsteins of the world, the Andrew Cuomos of the world. It's enough. The woman she's talking about, by the way, here's the headline from NPR, former model Stacey Williams is latest woman to accuse Trump of sexual misconduct. This is from 2024. Stacey Williams, a former Sports Illustrated model, claims Trump groped her in 1993, while Jeffrey Epstein, who was later convicted of sex offenses, looked on. She recounted the incident to CNN this week, as well as on a Zoom call with Survivors for Kamala, a group that's unaffiliated with the campaign. Quote, the second he was in front of me, he pulled me into him, and his hands were just on me and didn't come off, she told CNN in an interview. Quote, then the hands started moving, and they were on the side of my breasts, on my hips, back down to my butt. They were just on me the whole time. The problem lies here, and there's many, many problems related to Donald Trump's criminal behavior and assaults of women, is that there are just too many instances, too many women to even really wrap your brain around to comment on. It's not just all the maybe dozens or hundreds of women and children that we don't know about, allegedly. It's the ones we do know about. That in and of itself is problematic. While Megyn Kelly is out here launching a vigorous defense of Donald Trump that, he just fondles people against their will. Look at this little screen recording from a PBS NewsHour article that chronicles what we know so far. This is like a 30-second video of a slow scroll. Just you can pause as you go and see and read. Donald Trump is a credibly accused predator. He has been adjudicated by a court, a jury of his peers, of having sexually assaulted E. Jean Carroll. And there are many, many, many others. We've heard him with his mouth say that he used to go into teen pageant dressing rooms with girls, children, changing. And what are they going to do? I own the pageant. I can do what I want. He told Howard Stern while chuckling. We know his character. This is why I do not offer fairness and charity to Donald Trump. We know who he is. We've heard him say with his mouth about grabbing women by the pussy, that it's like a magnet. I just start kissing. The same type of behavior that Stacey Williams is describing. The same type of behavior that the dozens and dozens of women who are on record have described by Donald Trump. Luckily, they were fully grown women and not children who don't have the dexterity and the strength to physically fight back as capably as women. And that's the other thing, is Megyn Kelly, in all these clips I've been seeing of her, is talking about women. And she calls the children who Trump is alleged to have raped, go Google Katie Johnson, Donald Trump, she refers to them as young women. A 13-year-old isn't a young woman. A 13-year-old is a child, Megyn Kelly. You have children of nearly that age. Would you want Donald Trump babysitting them? Would you let Donald Trump be alone with your children, Megyn Kelly? If the answer is yes, we need to call into question your ability to parent, your actual love and devotion to the safety of your children, Megyn Kelly. What do you think? I invite you to this conversation. I believe is an important one. These facts need to be known by the American people. There are too many people who only watch Fox News, who only watch Newsmax, who only watch OAN, One America News, and don't know the behavior of Donald Trump. I think that there's a fair amount of Republicans that if they found out the truth about Donald Trump and the things he's done and the things he's alleged to have done, it'd be a different story. And I think that there's a gulf opening of Republicans who are starting to wake up to this. Tell a friend. Did you know God has a file on each one of us? Who knew that God was a part of a surveillance state? The Epstein files are nothing compared to God's files. What do you think Billy Graham, the famed televangelist, the famed evangelist, used to do the tent revivals and brought, who knows, an uncountable number of people to Jesus through salvation, through the salvation message? What do you think old Billy Graham would think of his son, Franklin Graham, defending an alleged pedophile and using the gospel of Jesus, using the Bible to defend Donald Trump and compare a list that God has of the things we've done to the Epstein files? You might be thinking to yourself, nah, the Graham family, they're too venerable. There's no way that happened, right? Well, enter a Facebook message from Franklin Graham that is about as batshit, sinister, and evil as one could be. I use those words deliberately. Franklin Graham is a ghoul. Franklin Graham is a fake Christian trafficking on the name of his father, the good name of his father. At least in the wide parlance of understanding in the United States by broadly most people, Billy Graham is seen as a decent man. I don't know the ins and outs. I know he had his problems relative to civil rights and a host of other issues. But on the whole, people view him as a good guy. This is what Franklin Graham said, by the way. Taking time out of his day, taking energy, taking focus away from the actual gospel, the salvation message of Jesus, to defend a credibly accused rapist of children. In American politics right now, the Epstein files are a major focus, says Franklin Graham. What many are wanting to see, whether they can find any damaging information about President Donald J. Trump's connection to Jeffrey Epstein, who pleaded guilty to sex crimes and then later died in prison. They may find this inquiry to be a double-edged sword because there are likely many people not currently on the radar whose sins may come to light. And then this is where it just gets off the rails insane. Did you know God has a file on each one of us? Who knew that God was a part of a surveillance state? The Epstein files are nothing compared to God's files. His files on us go much deeper than just what we've said or done. He knows our thoughts, desires, and motives. Is this a low-key threat to Donald Trump that the God knows that he lusts after children? Is that what you're saying, Franklin Graham? Are you actually one of the good guys? Jesus applied the 10 Commandments to the sins of our heart. By his standard, not one of us is without sin. Or are you doing the thing that so many Christians do? I'm not perfect, I'm just forgiven. Is that what you're saying? That Donald Trump did rape those kids, but he's forgiven because he's covered under the blood of Jesus. Is that what you're saying? Very difficult. Why don't you just say what you mean, Franklin Graham? By his standard, none of us is without sin. One day we will stand before God and everything will be revealed. And I mean everything, he says. Don't worry about the Epstein files now. When you're dead, you'll learn all about it, says Franklin Graham. The only hope for any individual is to accept God's provision for our forgiveness, which is the sacrifice of his Son, the Lord Jesus Christ, when he shed his blood and died on the cross in our place. To have peace with God, we must confess our sins, ask him for forgiveness, and by faith receive Christ personally. When we come to Christ, accepting God's forgiveness through faith in him, we are not only forgiven. Here we go. Donald Trump, you can be forgiven, Donald Trump. And not only forgiven, but cleansed. But he cleanses us. All those sins, like raping children, are washed away by the blood of Jesus. And God doesn't remember them anymore. What a promise. Claim it for yourself today. This is a weird and unholy mixing of Christianity to defend a credibly accused rapist of children. What's Franklin Graham himself covering for? Does he have personal picadillos that need to be addressed, that need to be looked into? This seems very strange, very odd indeed, for a group that is so hell-bent on giving Donald Trump, imbuing Donald Trump king-like, dictatorial, autocratic type powers. Not just Franklin Graham. I've talked about this ghoul many times before. Joel Webbin, who is here talking about Donald Trump wants him to become the American Caesar, to arrest people, start imprisoning judges and mayors and governors and any other elected official who gets in the way of the implementation of Donald Trump's Christian nationalist, white supremacist fever dream policy agenda for America. Watch, unfortunately, I'm sorry, Joel Webbin.
If Trump is going to have a lasting legacy, he's going to have to cross the Rubicon and say, enough is enough. The judges, the mayors, the governors, not just a sternly worded tweet. No, armed guards, throwing them in jail. These are traitors to the United States. Thousands of civil officials over the last 5-6 years have committed treason. They need to be rounded up and thrown in prison. This judge, you are not an American. You don't get rounded up and thrown in prison. You get rounded up, put on a boat, and sent back. They need to be naturalized and deported. That has to happen. And if that doesn't happen, then as much good as Trump is doing, it's still way too much bark and not enough bite. He needs to be the American Caesar. He must cross the Rubicon. He even tweeted out, I mean, we've got the president of the United States, Napoleon tweeting, right? He who saves his country violates no law. Yes and amen. So let's see it. Let's see it.
So if anyone is opposed to the white supremacist mass deportation effort of Donald Trump, the effort to make America more of a white ethno-state, if you're opposed to that, he should become an American Caesar and arrest you, imprison you, whether you're a mayor or a governor, any other elected official, a member of Congress, the Senate, anyone who opposes Donald Trump. He should act like a dictator, like a Caesar, like an emperor, and do his will outside of the rule of law. Some have taken a slightly less aggressive take on this. Lance Wallnau, another self-proclaimed prophet of God, he believes God speaks to him and he speaks the words of God to an audience. He believes that no, it shouldn't be a mass deportation. They should have carve-outs for some Hispanics, even though the vast, like 99.9, I don't know the figure, but it's virtually 100% of the people who are being rounded up, who are from South and Central America, they are Catholics, largely. They are, at the very least, they are just Christians generally, right? They are Christian. And Lance Wallnau wants a carve out, but not just for all of them because they're Christians, only for them that are Christians and conservative Republicans.
I work also in the MAGA Hispanic community, and the big thing that all the Hispanic Latino preachers are all, well, they'll tell you because they tell me, is they're concerned because attendance is down in the churches. It's a shame that the Christians that are illegal in the country, that have been in the church for 10 years, 15 years, they're afraid that ICE is going to come in and bust up the churches. So some of the best citizens you've got are living in fear of being deported. It's because we're like meatheads. I think, like, I guarantee. I just played Brother Steve. I listen to him all the time, but I can't. He doesn't listen to me. I can't get these guys to understand. The MAGA base actually has the Hispanic pro-Trump population, the Christians. You got to do a carve out somehow on those citizens that have been here for 10 years or more that are actually contributing, well assimilated, versus the ones that are coming in like the Muslim traffic that wants to take over America and declare Sharia law. You should not have. You ought to be creating some kind of a criteria for prioritizing criminals first. And if these people that have been working class people and they're serving, I mean, they got family here, and they're in church, and they're, frankly, if they're Republican conservative, I don't want to drive them into anxiety attacks and not voting for Trump because they're afraid they're getting deported. They're not the priority. Does that make sense to you?
You see, this is what conservative Christianity is today. It's not about Jesus, even though Franklin Graham went on and on and on about Jesus. He beats that drum and uses Jesus and the salvation message as a cudgel so you don't judge Donald Trump for the crimes, the vicious, violent crimes against children that have been alleged that he committed. When you start using your Bible and your holy scripture and you bastardize it to let somebody off the hook for sickening crimes against children while ignoring the scriptures that Jesus said, that it's better to have a millstone, a giant rock with a hole in the middle of it, have it tied around your neck and have you tossed to the bottom of the fucking sea to die, to drown. It's better that happened to you than for you to harm a child. I'm just paraphrasing scripture that Jesus said. You're not hearing that from Franklin Graham. You're hearing a weird, muddled, coded, cryptic message about how Donald Trump he's just a sinner like everybody. He can be forgiven, y'all. They want a dictator, they want a Caesar, they want a white supremacist policy agenda for this country. They want a white ethno-state for this country. And we can do a carve out for the Christians who are brown, who are conservative Republicans. Fuck out of here. What do you think? I appreciate your feedback in this. Look, I grew up in this faith tradition. I always get pushback. You're being a bigot against religion. These are my people. I can criticize them. This is the way I grew up. I grew up in churches like this all throughout my childhood. So bring me your criticism, but no, I probably know more about this than you do if you've got criticism. You can comment below. You can also call the voicemail line, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can do it the old-fashioned way and email me, daily@dollemore.com. I love and appreciate you very much. I will see you next time. Until then, be genuine and take care of one another. Actually, take care of one another. We can say what we want about you. We can admonish the military to only follow the orders that you give that are legal. When you say shoot peaceful protesters in the leg, that's an illegal order that should be disregarded. Yesterday, I covered a video that was put out by members of the House of Representatives and the United States Senate, members of those bodies who are former employees of the intelligence community, the CIA, the NSA, and also military veterans, including Jason Crow, Bronze Star recipient, former, I believe, special operator, certainly Army Ranger. And it was about them calling on the United States military members to not follow unlawful orders. Seems reasonable, right? Why would anyone have any heartburn, any consternation over an appeal to only follow lawful orders? I wonder why this is even a conversation. Why is it that someone might think Donald Trump, the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, would order someone to do something illegal? It seems outlandish, right? Why would anybody think that? Oh, maybe it's because of this. Little tweet on Truth Social from this morning at 9:08 a.m. where Donald Trump said it's called seditious behavior at the highest level. Each of these traitors to our country should be arrested and put on trial. Their words cannot be allowed to stand. We won't have a country anymore. An example must be set. President DJT. Arrested and put on trial for admonishing military members to only follow lawful orders. Arrested and put on trial. And the thing he was reposting there, the link that you see there, was from this Washington Examiner article, the title of which is Democratic Veterans in Congress Urge Service Members to Refuse Unspecified Unlawful Orders. And this sent Trump into a violent tizzy. He wants to arrest and put on trial members of Congress who only want the best for their country and for the members of our military, for them to only follow lawful orders. Donald Trump wants them put on trial because he believes they should follow his unlawful orders, his illegal commands. And it gets worse. It's not just this little post from Donald Trump. It's not just him sharing this Washington Examiner article. He's also retruthing and then subsequently retweeting these posts from idiots, radicals on his platform. This one from @P78, hang them. George Washington would, double exclamation point. Someone who has just as much grammatic acuity as Donald Trump. Donald Trump endorsed this idea by reposting it, that they should be hung. George Washington would. And this one, just simply calling them traitors. This is something I've talked about in the past. This is the language of the right. This is their understanding of treason, which is a broad category. They believe there is only one penalty for treason, and that is death. And in this case, it's not even treason. It's just good sense, good order and discipline within military ranks to only follow lawful orders. But Donald Trump believes anything that goes against what his desires are is treason. Seditious behavior at the highest level, he said. At the highest level? You're just a dude, dipshit. You're not a king, dumb fuck. We can say what we want about you. We can admonish the military to only follow the orders that you give that are legal. When you say shoot peaceful protesters in the leg, that's an illegal order that should be disregarded. Republicans are silent on this. This is the president of the United States who thinks of himself as a Mohammed bin Salman character, who attacks journalists aboard Air Force One, calling them names like piggy, yelling at them to be quiet when they ask him a question he doesn't want to answer. A man who sits alongside a brutal monarch in a repressive country like Saudi Arabia and explains away why Jamal Khashoggi was dismembered inside of a Saudi consulate. The CIA found as much. The CIA says this. It's not the journalists saying it, not reporting. Our intelligence infrastructure has come to that conclusion. And Donald Trump says, well, he was controversial, as though that's a justification for murdering someone and dismembering them. This is who Donald Trump wants to be. And if Republicans don't wake the fuck up, don't find some spine within themselves, some intestinal fortitude, as it were, where will we be? I ask this question a lot of people that I meet on the street, about interviews I do with politicians, and I ask them, when did you, first I say, is this worse than you thought it would be? And invariably the answer is, yeah, this is a lot worse than I thought it would be in a second Trump term. And I ask, when did you come to that conclusion? Because you didn't know going in. A lot of us thought it would be worse than the first administration, but certainly not here, where Donald Trump is openly, with no pushback from his party leaders, calling for the execution of members of the opposition party. This is not presidential. This is not constitutional. This is not democratic. This does not follow any semblance of American jurisprudence. It's because Donald Trump thinks he's a king. He thinks he is some autocrat. He rules everything. And to go against him is sedition at the highest levels. I don't know if this the last gasps at life from a dying man. I don't know, maybe. But things won't be much better with a J.D. Vance as president of the United States. He's seen the writing on the wall. He's seen the cowardice of elected Republicans who will say nothing, who are so afraid of Donald Trump. Oh, I don't want him to threaten my life. I don't want him to sick the MAGA mob on me. I don't want to end up like Mike Pence, with a hangman's gallows erected just 1,000 feet or so from the door of the United States Capitol, with the armed, frothing cult mob screaming, "Hang Mike Pence." We have a country that is certainly divided between the brave and the cowards. I'll let you guess who's on the coward side. It's the Republicans. You've got members of Congress who are just doing their duty, just trying to form some semblance through their understanding and experience in the roles that they're talking to the members of now, current members of, and wanting decency, goodness, good things for the United States. And you can't have that when you have a rogue military following illegal orders to kidnap citizens off the street, to take hostage immigrants on the street, to kill who knows who out in the ocean, open waters of the ocean, likely fishermen. The administration says they're drug runners. You don't just get to kill them without due process. That's not how it works. Illegal orders are being followed. Anyway, this is without a doubt one of the most important stories of the day. I hope you share this video. I hope you talk about this with your friends. We need to build a movement and an uprising against Donald Trump and these cowards in the Republican Party. What do you think? You can comment below this video.
The protests at Lafayette Square in the first Trump administration, where he said, "Can't you just shoot them? Can't you just shoot them in the legs or something?" That's his direct quote. And of course, the then chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
That was not a military order. That was a comment.
So we're going to stay on the topic of the senators and Congress people admonishing the military, reminding the military to not follow unlawful orders, illegal orders from their commanders that come all the way down from the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, Donald Trump, and his Secretary of Defense, the spindly-legged Pete Hegseth. Fox News is now running interference, aggressive interference for Donald Trump in this regard. Everyone is beside themselves with questions and outrage that members of Congress would ask, hey, listen, don't follow illegal orders. And their outrage gene flips on. They're triggered by this. What? They should have to follow illegal orders. I mean, that's by extension on the other side of the coin. That's what they would be defending based on their outrage, right? If they're outraged at illegal orders not being followed, it means they would be pleased by, or at least accept the fact that our troops are being forced to follow illegal orders, unlawful orders, committing crimes. And Martha McCallum didn't serve in the military, yet acts like she's the resident expert on unit cohesion and morale and what it takes to actually be in the military, while interviewing a war hero, Jason Crow, Congressman Jason Crow. I believe he's from Colorado, a Bronze Star recipient, which is awarded for bravery and meritorious service, usually in combat. And Martha McCallum, non-service member, non-veteran, is schooling him, is lecturing him because of his participation in that video. And by the way, I'm going to play this first clip. I want to remind you in what tenses they're talking about. They're talking in future tense about, well, what if he were to do this? About prospective orders. They're not talking about what he has done. Even she says it's about what the orders allude to, meaning future orders. Watch this and watch this whole thing unravel, because he is unwaveringly committed to what he's talking about.
You sign up, you carry out the mission that is assigned to you. The other option is to not join the military or to leave if you feel that you can't carry out an order. But the command is just an integral part of what you sign up for, which you know way better than I do, and I thank you for your service. So, Congressman, thank you for being here. Why did you participate in this video?
Martha, we're standing by our troops, our service members, who are often put in very difficult positions, and Donald Trump has put them in very difficult positions and has alluded to putting them in even more difficult positions in the months and years ahead. So we are reminding folks about what the Uniform Code of Military Justice says, what the Constitution says, what the law of war says. This is really no different than what I did with my infantry platoon in advance of deploying to Iraq in 2003. I trained these young soldiers on their obligation to comply with the law of war, to comply with the Constitution, and what is a lawful versus a unlawful order.
What law are you talking about that's being broken? And then you said that he's implying that he might do something that they wouldn't want to uphold or follow through with in the future. What are you talking about specifically?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking. Well, number one, the protests at Lafayette Square in the first Trump administration, where he said, can't you just shoot them? Can't you just shoot them in the legs or something? That's his direct quote. And of course, the then chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff pushed back on that.
That was not a military order. That was a comment. That's not a military order.
When that's coming from the President of the United States to your generals, don't you think that's a request? That's
I'm
a question?
Asking specifically now what you're talking about.
Yeah, number two, he's also threatened to send the military into Chicago and other cities to, quote, go to war with those cities. Right? That is a very, very disturbing thing. Number three, he's also alluded to sending troops to polling stations, which is actually a violation of U.S. law. U.S. criminal law prohibits troops from going to polling stations, and he's alluded to that. So those are just one of many examples.
You're talking about
Donald Trump
illusions. You're not talking about actual policy.
This is what's so perplexing about Republicans and conservatives and these media types, these fucking idiots. It's what she is, Martha McCallum. Well, that's not an order. So when Donald Trump does something outrageous as the president of the United States of America and the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, when he tells his defense secretary to shoot the protesters in the legs, well, that's just a comment. That's not an order. So when the president of the United States speaks to his defense secretary, it's just, they're just a couple of bros having a beer and talking. That's an order. That comes with the weight the breadth and width and the strength and the power of the presidency. Just because it's a dopey fuck like Donald Trump doesn't mean does not carry weight with it. Well, that was a comment. Also, she's demanding what has been done when they're talking about what could be done. That's why the video that they put out, calling on military members to only follow lawful orders, is about the future. They're not saying Donald Trump has given unlawful orders. I have said that. Bombing without due process boats in the ocean is illegal. It violates the rules of war, the rules of engagement. It violates all kinds of principles and international law. Donald Trump is the king. Hard for Martha MacCallum to wrap her little brain around that, but that is the fact of the matter. Working roughshod to cover for Donald Trump's crimes, we know that's what you do at Fox News, Martha, but it is not what your job is. My lights are blinking on and off as I talk, and I'm going to continue. I got a second clip. Maybe I'll look at the lights while I'm doing that. Where it's at the end of this was at the beginning of the interview. The end of the interview, she gets more and more and more defensive as this goes along, as she peppers in her thanks for his service, this fake troop adoration. It's all just falls on deaf ears for those of us who hear it constantly about thank you for your service. I would rather get thanks for my service from your actions, not from your hollow words. And I'm sure Jason Crow agrees. Watch this second part.
You're talking to young members of the American military, and you're not telling them specifically what it is they should see as illegal. So you're putting ideas into their head that maybe they're being asked to do something illegal. And what we're seeing actually is recruitment rising. And people wanting to join the military under the president. Here's
an interesting fact for you, Martha. Our men and women actually are very smart, very incredible men and women in our military. And
you don't have to tell me that.
Well, apparently I do.
No, you don't, sir. I have great respect for the United States military.
Well, you don't think they can handle a reminder about federal law and the UCMJ, is what I'm hearing. And a recent survey showed that 8 out of 10 service members deeply understand their obligation of lawful orders, right? 8 out of 10. So we want to get that. That should be 10 out of 10. But this is something that they're trained on. Go and look at the training. Maybe even go and participate or observe some of the training that our men and women go through. It is incredible. We expect a lot of these men and women. They go through very intense, rigorous training because they're put in intense, rigorous positions. And frankly, I bristle at the notion that they can't handle a suggestion or a reminder of what the law requires them to do and what the Constitution requires them to do. You actually disparage them when you say that a simple reminder is something they cannot handle.
You're wrong. You're 100% wrong. I didn't disparage them in any way. In fact, I give them enormous credit.
You don't think they can handle reminders about their legal obligations?
I think these men and women certainly can handle it. If it was specific and they could figure out what order you're referring to, I have the most deep respect for everyone who serves in the military, including you, sir, for the sacrifice that you made. I did not make that sacrifice myself. So I put everyone who makes that sacrifice in a very special place in my heart. And I believe they're there to serve the country. So you have put out this video. It's getting a lot of attention. I thank you for joining me to talk about it. And I think, people can look at it and take away from it what they want. I just wanted to give you an opportunity to be specific about what illegal actions you were referring to. So thank you for being here, Congressman, and thank you again for your service.
So they can't figure it out, she says. I respect them. I think they're wonderful and great and smart and brilliant, but they can't figure it out, says Martha MacCallum, who deeply respects. No, sir. You're wrong, sir. You're wrong. I respect the troops. Oh, support the troops, I say with my flapping lips, but not with my action. It is more fake patriotism on display from Fox News, from Martha MacCallum specifically in this case. It's one thing to walk up to the flag and salute it and show a little respect or whatever. It's another thing to hug and kiss and molest the flag like Donald Trump. Apparently, they need just constant patriotism on display to signal, virtue signal, some would say, to the base about their love for the troops. But let me tell you, they could figure it out. If we put upon them the responsibility of when to pull the trigger, who to kill at long range, they could certainly understand the difference between an unlawful and a lawful order. And if they can't, then they're not up to the challenge. They're not up to the task. They're not up to the duty required of them, and they should resign, as Martha McCallum said in the first clip. Well, if you don't want to follow illegal orders, just don't join the military. These people know who their audience is. They know that there is a low information, unwashed horde of MAGA voters who watch this. They don't need to come up with actual information to convince anyone. They don't need to come up with decent and cogent arguments. You just use buzzwords and talk about your love of the troops, and you're right by virtue of that. Gross and disgusting and dismissive and disrespectful of military members. And I say that as a former United States Marine who served on active duty for many years. I say it as an expert in this particular topic. Anyway, I'd love to know what you think. If you are also an expert in this particular topic, you can sound off below. If you're not an expert, you can also sound off below. Call the voicemail line 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. I love and appreciate you very much. Thanks for your engagement. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel on YouTube and go like and follow the Dollemore Daily Facebook page. We are growing over there. This content is shared natively there. You can share it across Facebook. It doesn't have to be a link where then Zuckerberg doesn't like to share the links, so it's just the whole video. Anyway.
What changed since then that you launched this investigation?
Information that has come for information. There's information new information, additional information, and again, we will continue to follow the law.
Yesterday, Pam Bondi held a press conference about this Canadian skier who's apparently absconded to Mexico, and there's like a $15 million reward. This isn't about that. This is about the last 4 or so minutes of a 31-minute press conference where they took just 2 questions about Jeffrey Epstein. And let me tell you, I don't have any respect for Pam Bondi. None. I think she is a ghoul and terrible at her job. I think she should be disbarred. She should resign from her position. All of these we'll cover in the next video. But you're going to watch a virtual nervous breakdown, a glitch out, a crack up, a breakdown on the part of Pam Bondi when asked a simple question. One, let me say this. They've got 3 talking points they wanted to ram down the throats of Americans. It's that they want to protect, they're going to follow the law, they're going to protect victims, and they're going to provide maximum transparency. She says this many, many times inside of only 2 clips. It's the point they want to drive home. When asked specifically, are you going to release all the files? She doesn't say, yes, absolutely, we're going to do that. She says, we're going to follow the law. We're going to protect the victims. We're going to provide maximum transparency. She's a robot programmed by Donald Trump. And what would you expect of any robot programmed by anything programmed by Donald Trump? It's going to glitch out. It's going to fuck up. And that is exactly what happened. Watch this first clip, and then we're going to go to the second one where the glitch really shines through.
Go ahead, now off topic.
On the Epstein files, does the new investigation by the Southern District of New York U.S. Attorney prevent the department from releasing all of the remaining files?
So we have released over 33,000 Epstein documents to the Hill, and we'll continue to follow the law and to have maximum transparency. Also, we will always encourage all victims to come forward.
David, what are the next steps, Madam Attorney General, for the DOJ regarding what we assume President Trump will sign into law with the Epstein files? Is this going to be on the Justice Department website? What are you doing here over the next 30 days as we understand it?
We will continue to follow the law with maximum transparency while protecting victims.
When you say follow the law, Madam Attorney General, do you mean that you will provide all the files by 30 days?
We will follow the law. The law passed both chambers last evening. It has not yet been signed, but we will continue to follow the law, again, while protecting victims, but also providing maximum transparency.
They're gonna do it. Follow the law, protect the victims, maximum transparency. Yes, Donald Trump told me what to say. When the questions got a little harder, they leveled up one little level, a reporter asked the question, listen, you said before that this was over, that there were no other names to be implicated and everything was gone through and it was done. Why now have you opened up a second investigation? And this is when she really cracks up. This is when the patina of control just falls away and she can't, it's information, information. And then, of course, follow the law and the rest of the nonsense. Watch this. It's nuts.
Follow the law, again, while protecting victims, but also providing maximum transparency.
To that. Madam Attorney General, the DOJ statement earlier this year saying that the files would not release mentioned the fact that the review of the documents and the evidence did not suggest that any additional investigation of third parties was warranted. What changed since then that you launched this investigation?
Information that has come for information. There's information new information, additional information, and again, we will continue to follow the law, to investigate any leads. If there are any victims, we encourage all victims to come forward, and we will continue to provide maximum transparency under the law.
Wedding, Madam General. On Ryan Wedding, you mentioned,
Madam Attorney
Sure,
General,
Kelly.
the issue with the new information that you just indicated, is the department seeking information perhaps from the Epstein estate because Mr. Blanche did not have that information when he interviewed Ghislaine Maxwell? What new information, and would you limit the new investigation to just those named persons that the president talked about, or is this a broad, open-ended investigation?
I would refer to the Deputy Attorney General's post that he put out on X, and we're not going to say anything else on that because now it is a pending investigation in the Southern District of New York. But you're on point. Hard stop. One more question.
Tell me you're not comfortable with what's taking place without actually saying you're uncomfortable. Information that has come for information. There's information, that new information, additional information. So I'm hearing there was information. What was that information? I can't tell you the information because there's an active investigation, which is exactly what we predicted. We being me a couple of weeks ago. Others, legal experts, have said that very likely what we're facing down here is the DOJ withholding documents because now there's a new investigation in the Southern District of New York. We're watching it play out here. We're not going to say anything, blah, blah, blah. But here's let's finish on a little fun note, a little light note. I don't know if you were watching. I like when I watch these clips to watch the different characters. Sometimes I watch a clip more than once. So I could not stop watching Kash Patel. Talk about a guy who's uncomfortable in his skin. I'm going to zoom in on the clip, but watch. This is like a minute long. You can skip ahead. You'll see the timer. I've zoomed in on it so it's easier to see. Watch Kash Patel be the most uncomfortable freak you've ever seen.
Information that has come for information. There's information new information, additional information, and again, we will continue to follow the law, to investigate any leads. If there are any victims, we encourage all victims to come forward, and we will continue to provide maximum transparency under the law.
Do you want to see my Kash Patel impression? This is it. That guy's our FBI director. That guy's in charge of a massive law enforcement organization, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And his number 2 is podcaster Dan Bongino. This shows you how much respect for law and order the Trump administration has. That it's not about actually prosecuting crimes, investigating wrongdoing, providing justice. No, this is about loyalty to Donald Trump. And who do you have to pull up from the cheap seats, from the back of the bench to support that role of being loyal to Donald Trump? The dumbest motherfuckers available. The most feckless and idiotic. That's who you find. Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, Pam Bondi, these types, the Lindsay Halligans, the Alina Habbas, the Kristi Noems. Like, just name a member of Donald Trump's cabinet. It's just this. Anyway, I'd love to know what you think. Kash Patel. What do you think? You can comment below this video. Maybe I should have just kept it serious and cut off the Kash Patel mockery. Nah. Anyway, you can comment below. Let me know what you think.
I am curious, though. Why do you think Ghislaine Maxwell is in a minimum security prison and is being waited on basically hand and foot?
I don't know, and I don't care.
Sticking with the topic of the Jeffrey Epstein files and the release therein and the vote, the discharge petition that was followed by the vote, and then finally Donald Trump signed the thing. The presser from Pam Bondi that we just talked about. It's amazing to me when there's a sex scandal related to Donald Trump and his been credibly accused of all these crimes. It's amazing to me that someone like Jesse Waters, this stalwart, manly man, he can't even drink from a straw. He's so manly. He would never cross his legs because he's just too masculine. That he would go on TV, on national television, and just gargle the balls of Donald Trump, rhetorically speaking. It is a wild event to behold. And that is exactly what this first clip is. It's just slathering Donald Trump up in a soapy lather and then just working him over. Like, it's amazing to me that Jesse Waters would act like he could give Donald Trump the jerk that he's never had in his life with those spindly little arms. Remarkable. I know I'm going a little hard here. But in this first clip, it's the same kind of a thing we usually talk about, where Jessica Tarloff provides exemplary explanation of reality. And then you've got the stooge, the stage of stooges who are trying to provide disinformation and misinformation to counter the reality view of Jessica Tarloff. And in this one, it really is the gargling of the ball sack from Jesse Waters. Donald Trump's just choking him out with his withered mushroom cap. And I'm really going hard on that, huh? And he's saying Donald Trump's a champion. He defeated COVID, or he calls it the China virus or something. He defeated this. He defeated the FBI. He's untouchable. He's gonna win this one too, which is just trying to convince yourself of that, because Donald Trump, if anything has ever damaged Donald Trump, damaged his psyche, damaged his ability to cope, it's this. We've never seen Donald Trump act as erratically as we're witnessing right now. And that does portend dangerous things for the Republic and us individually, maybe me especially, the bombastic nature with which I cover things. Who knows? But watch this. This Republican eroticism that is then interrupted by Jessica Tarloff, and that's where we'll start the second clip. Check this out.
And think about the guys you build these anti-Trump cases around, Jessica. Convicted felons, porn stars, and pedophiles. You think this is going to take out Donald Trump?
I don't.
He beat the China virus. He beat the FBI, the CIA. He beat all your dirty prosecutors. A few emails from a dead pedophile Democrat donor is not going to do it.
He is Superman. I am curious, though.
He didn't beat anything. He became president again, and then those investigations went away because he now is in control of the Justice Department. But you know that, Jesse. Nepo baby Jesse, who grew up exceedingly wealthy, he understands the ins and outs of the power stratus, right? Enter Jessica Tarloff. You heard her there at the end. Oh yeah, he's Superman. And here's what I want to know, I think, is I'm curious though, she asks. And then she injects wisdom. She injects rationality and reason into this non-reality based view of the world. And you will get a preview of what elected Republicans are going to start talking about relative to Donald Trump's credible accusations against him that many of us, and I've heard from many of you, believe he absolutely raped children. Watch Jessica Tarloff.
Is not going to do it.
He is Superman. I am curious, though. Why do you think Ghislaine Maxwell is in a minimum security prison and is being waited on basically hand and foot?
I don't know, and I don't care.
Well, that's
but I
beautiful.
do know this,
I love
Jessica.
that you don't know and you
will
don't
find
care when
out
it's inconvenient
that the
for
FBI
you.
will be embarrassed because they investigated a lot of these allegations and didn't do anything about it. The DOJ will be embarrassed because they were the ones that cut the sweetheart deal. J.P. Morgan, all the bankers will be embarrassed.
Yeah, I'd love
a lot
to
of
hear from
Democrats and a lot of
Costa.
and the royal family will be embarrassed.
Well,
So
they definitely already are.
I think Donald Trump is probably saying there's going to be a lot of innuendo out there. You really want to see it? You really want to see it? Are you sure? Okay, here it is. And it's not going to look good. The one thing that they won't release, the sex tapes, because the FBI keeps those for blackmail. You know how the game works.
When you have no facts, when you have no reality on your side, what do? You lean in on conspiracies. They're going to save the sex tapes because you know how the game works. All right, Alex Jones, we get it. But the thing that you need to hone in on there, the thing that I maybe buried the lead a little on, is when she says, well, why is Ghislaine Maxwell getting special treatment in a minimum security prison that she's not even qualified to be in based on Bureau of Prisons regulations? And what is his answer? I don't know. I don't care. Because as long as Donald Trump is allowed to remain as the king, as long as his tasty scrotum can be stuffed into Jesse Waters' mouth, he's all good. He doesn't care about vile criminals who violate children. He doesn't care. He only cares that Democrats get punished, that Donald Trump's enemies be vanquished. Classic Fox News. Classic Republican. Classic modern conservatism. It is gross. It is antithetical to the law, to the Constitution, to good, just basic decency. But when you make millions of dollars to do this, soulless, dangerous, and soulless. I invite your participation in this conversation. I know I went a little hard on this one. Sometimes that happens. Not going to redo it. So you can comment below. Tell me how wrong I am, how radical I am, how I need to be arrested and tried for treason or sedition, as Donald Trump said, against those congresspeople.
Well, a startling discussion, the final indictment that James Comey now faces, the former FBI director. It was never shown to the full grand jury in this courthouse, and they did not approve it in full.
Some days are just jam-packed with news. Jam-packed with not typical headline stuff, but stories like this that on any other set of weeks in American history would be explosive. That Donald Trump is weaponizing the Justice Department so much that he is faking and literally faking indictments, getting called out for it in court. This should nullify the indictment against James Comey. A courtroom was stunned into silence witnessing what took place yesterday. Lindsay Halligan should resign and be disbarred. Pam Bondi should resign and be disbarred. She is no longer qualified to practice law. She is maliciously prosecuting someone at the behest of Donald Trump, who thinks he's a king. She is a subject of the royal order, the House of Trump. And they went into a federal court. They impaneled a federal grand jury, something I know about, having served on one for a year and a half. I know I say it. I was on the grand jury that indicted Michael Avenatti in Southern California for 18 months. I know how it works. I know the process inside the grand jury room. I know what the process is while deliberating. I know when a true bill is signed by the foreperson. I know all of it. And to hear what took place in the grand jury room, that they took the true bill, they took the indictment that wasn't voted on, and then they had the forepersons. This is a scandal the likes of which the country has maybe never, ever seen. They're attempting to persecute, to maliciously prosecute through fake means the former FBI director, the former deputy director of the Department of Justice in James Comey, who I don't even have any love for. I don't give a shit about James Comey. We're in this situation with Donald Trump right now largely because of James Comey and his hubris, his arrogance. But he's still an American who deserves due process. He deserves impartiality. He deserves dispassionate dispensing of justice. He doesn't deserve to be railroaded. No American does. Watch this. This is from Caitlin Polans of CNN explaining. She was in the courtroom, and she explains just how radical what went down was.
Well, a startling discussion. Less than 1 minute of time passed with no silence in this courtroom as the judge was able to ask the question and got the Justice Department to admit the final indictment that James Comey now faces, the former FBI director. It was never shown to the full grand jury in this courthouse, and they did not approve it in full. They had voted down indicting Comey because they had been asked to approve 3 different charges against him. That indictment was a no from the grand jury, and then there was no further discussion with the prosecutors to bring about the indictment Comey now faces. I want to lay this out a little bit more because I'm sure there will be many legal analysts to talk about this. The judge didn't make any final determinations about the case, and there will be more arguments about this. But what happened in court was that Judge Nachmanoff, after there were many arguments about Donald Trump directing the Justice Department, whether Lindsay Halligan, the prosecutor here, had acted on her own accord to decide to bring this indictment against Comey, Judge Nachmanoff, he began asking the prosecutor to explain why the documents in this case look the way this is, why there was missing time in the grand jury transcript. And things got very intense very quickly. They put on the husher. Both defense team and the prosecution team started whispering to each other very vigorously. And then the judge asked the question. The operative indictment in this case, that document was never shown to the entire grand jury. That is when Tyler Lemons, the prosecutor, standing next to Lindsay Halligan, the U.S. attorney who was also seated at a counsel table, says, standing in front of you right now, no. There was silence in the courtroom. Judge Nachmanoff sat back in his chair. He looked down. He flipped pages that were in front of them. And then he asked again and stopped Tyler Lemons from answering, called Lindsay Halligan up to the podium. And she also confirmed, no, Your Honor, that the foreperson in open court was the person who had signed the final indictment against Comey. This was the very end of the arguments, the full set of arguments. This was like an additional thing the judge wanted to talk about. And so right after this, the defense counsel for James Comey, Michael Dreeben, he stood up and he said, it appears the operative indictment in this case was never shown to the grand jury and was never returned. That is the conclusion that they should draw, at least on the defense. He's trying to argue to the judge that this is an invalid case and should be outright dismissed.
It's a fake indictment. It's a non-existent indictment. It is voided. It has been voided. And you don't just have to take my word for it. That was shocking enough just to listen to her account of being in the courtroom at the time, the stunned silence. of the court. But you don't have to take my word for it. You don't have to take this reporter's word for it at CNN, Caitlin Polantz. Take the word of a former Donald Trump lawyer, Ty Cobb, who has the same opinion. This is now an avoided indictment. This case very likely will be just dismissed out of hand, recognizing it for what it is, malicious prosecution. Donald Trump gave an order and his unqualified underlings acted on it. Watch Ty Cobb.
This is an indictment, though, that doesn't really have to be dismissed. It doesn't really exist. It was never properly returned. So I think what we heard today, shocking, never occurred before in American jurisprudence. I think it will be dispositive. But on the other hand, there's so many dispositive issues here, including her illegal appointment.
Well, I do want to ask you about that. You've said that you think both Halligan and Attorney General Bondi could be disbarred over this case against Comey, and that was before we learned what happened today in court. It also raises questions for me that if you're going to use Lindsay Halligan in this manner, the fact that she has no experience, is anyone overseeing that work to make sure that problems don't arise? But what do you think now?
Well, I do think that both Halligan and Bondi should be disbarred. Bondi has twice submitted affirmations to this court about the propriety of Lindsay Halligan's grand jury presentation. She knew this. There's no way she could not have known this, and that's just means that she lied, or that she's equally incompetent, but more likely that she lied.
Even he thinks they should be disbarred. That's a big deal. That's a serious thing. You need to try to attempt to overthrow the country or overturn a free and fair election in this country. That's the kind of behavior, Rudy Giuliani, that warrants it. And here we are with this. The more in trouble Donald Trump feels, the more erratic he will act. And that's exactly what we're witnessing right now. He will stop at nothing at persecuting his political opponents, his perceived enemies. And hopefully, the foundational elements of our justice system can stand fast through the carnage and the chaos that is being inflicted upon it by Donald Trump, which is by design, by the way. It's not an accident that he's doing this. Anyway, I solicit your participation in this conversation. Let's have it in the comments below the video you're watching, wherever it be. Facebook, YouTube, you can comment below.
What if there are more names connected to the Democratic Party that come out as a result of this?
So what? The law is the law. They need to release the files.
You know all the talk that's been going on about getting rid of Chuck Schumer as the majority leader? I have participated in that conversation. Weeks and weeks ago, I called for Chuck Schumer to resign as minority leader. He doesn't have to resign from the Senate. He's been elected to a term. Let him finish his term out. But you don't need to be the minority leader. You're not entitled to that position. I interviewed Ro Khanna on this show. We talked about it at length. This is where I stand. And now I have my pick. I asked Ro Khanna who he would put in place. He kind of demurred. He avoided the question, and justifiably so. I think he said something about, look, I'm a congressman. I'm not going to call the shots from the lower house. It's what it's called, the House of Representatives. They're going to be like, who's this guy telling us who to put in charge? I get it. But I'm not in the Congress. I'm a political commentator, so I'm going to commentate. And here we are. This is my guy from this interview. This made the decision for me, Chris Murphy. That's who I want to be the next minority leader of the United States Senate for the Democrats. And then when we take control of the Senate, he will be the majority leader. And the reason I say that is because he is showing no fear in questions about the Epstein files. He's saying similar things to me. I've said this yesterday. I've seen online, I was on Threads, and I saw somebody like, look at all the Democrats. Now they're all quiet about the Epstein files because Bill Clinton's implicated. No, the fuck we aren't. And this question was asked by John Berman of Chris Murphy. Well, what now that there's Democrats named, what do you think about this? And Chris Murphy's answer is, leadership. Watch this.
You mentioned the investigations into Democrats who had been named in the files that were released by the Epstein estate. One of the things the president did say, and again, he signed it overnight, no signing ceremony, no TV cameras, no nothing, but he did put out a Truth Social release where he noted that Democrats have been mentioned, again, in what has been released so far. What if there are more names connected to the Democratic Party that come out as a result of this?
So what? I mean, yeah, I'm sure that there are Democrats in those files. There are Republicans in those files. There are, Wall Street executives who have no political affiliation. What we want is to understand who was involved in this. I don't think the president is so selfless that he was, stopping the release of these files for so long because he was protecting his friends. I just think it stands to reason that he's very much connected to this scandal. And we may or may not know the extent of that, because it could be that the president is going to try to find a way to redact any information connected to him from those files. But to me, it just doesn't matter the political affiliation. The law is the law. They need to release the files.
Well, what if more names come out that are Democrats? So what? Who cares? If you hurt a child, if you victimize an innocent child, so what? You need to be punished. There needs to be consequence delivered against you. It doesn't matter if you're former President Bill Clinton. I don't know how you feel. Very likely, could be. Not exactly a stand-up guy. Bill Gates, same thing. The allegations, his involvement with Jeffrey Epstein played a role in the divorce between he and his ex-wife. Bill Gates, I'm talking about. I don't care about these people who are Democrats. If you harmed a child, you think I have more loyalty to the Democratic Party than I do the innocence of a child? Than a victimized child? Innocent, stolen, traumatized? I don't give a single fuck about the Democratic Party where it relates to children being harmed. Anybody. Barack Obama's not implicated. But if so, yeah, done. Write him off. That's how we should all be thinking about this. This is not about politics. It's become about politics because Donald Trump wants it to be about politics, because if it's about politics, he can say, oh, that's just politics. I didn't do anything. And he's making it about politics because he's like, yeah, I was involved with Jeffrey Epstein. So was Bill Clinton. So was Larry Summers. So are these other people. Go look at them. Don't look at me. Yeah, look at all of you. All of them. Even Stacey Plaskett, Democrat, texting with Jeffrey Epstein during a congressional hearing. She should have been censored. Why? Why are you texting with a child rapist, Stacey Plaskett? And Jamie Raskin, who I have deep affection and respect for, saying, well, she was just taking a call from a constituent. Bullshit. So she just often is getting texted by random constituents during hearings, and that informs what question she asks next? No. Obama's, now I'm going far afield here before this second clip, but Obama's White House counsel, I can't even think of Remler or whatever her name is, no more. Not welcome in polite society anymore. You had dealings and jovial message exchange with a child rapist that you knew to be a convicted child rapist. Done. Done with you. Anyway, watch this next one. And this is another reason why, I know I really went far afield here. This is another reason why I want him to be the minority leader. Eventually, the majority leader of the Senate. Is because he understands. You've heard me say this phrase, I don't know how many times, that the old political order that used to exist no longer exists. When I sat with Cory Booker, I said this exact thing. When are we going to come and learn that that old way of doing things doesn't work anymore? It's no longer my good friend across the aisle. We can get along. We just disagree about blah, blah, blah. Nope, that's not how it works anymore. And the sooner we realize that, the sooner we can set our attention to making things better. You cannot negotiate with Republicans. That's not how it works. This Republican Party is broken. This Republican Party is a cult. This Republican Party is set their attention and their energies to white supremacy under the auspices of a Donald Trump presidency. And Chris Murphy gets that. Watch this.
What's your message to the 8 Democrats or 7 Democrats and 1 independent who did vote to end the shutdown, being promised there would be a vote on the Obamacare subsidy? I guess there may still be a vote there, but it may not be a vote that does anything.
Yeah, the reality is that the Congress doesn't work the way that it used to. It used to be that you could negotiate with Senate Republicans. I did this all the time on guns, on immigration, and they would stick to the agreement that they made. Today, all that matters is what Donald Trump believes. So you really can't negotiate. I wish this weren't true, but you really can't negotiate with Senate or House Republicans because they are just waiting for Donald Trump to tell them what to do. You've got to be negotiating directly with the White House. And right now, the White House has drawn a line in the sand. They are telling us we are determined to increase costs, determined to increase health premiums on Americans this winter because our only priority is protecting the rich and powerful. Our only priority is raising premiums for the very, very rich and corporations in this country.
That's my guy. If that's your guy, I want to hear from you. We'll end it there. My voice is getting raspy from screaming and yelling. I need to calm it down. And for those of you, by the way, who send me messages about, hey, you need to calm down and worry about your blood pressure. My blood pressure is very low, very healthy. You don't worry about that. I'm healthy. Strong like bull, or whatever the saying is. But I love you and appreciate you. I love your engagement. Please comment below and let me know what you think. You can comment. You can also call the voicemail line 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. Get at me, Chris Murphy. Come on the show. You've got my support, brother. If you want to help support this work, wow, look at that. What a masterful little segue I provided myself. I'm excited about that. If you want to help support this work, I would appreciate it very much. Independent media, very important right now. You're not going to be hearing shit like this on CNN. And if you appreciate it, hearing it from me, you can support this work for $2 a month. You can go to my Patreon page. First and foremost, that's the best way, patreon.com/IDoubtItPodcast. You can also, right on YouTube, become a channel member for the same amount, $2 a month. If you're on a fixed income or on retirement or disability, I don't want your monetary support. Take care of yourself, especially in these times. You can like and follow. You can subscribe. You can comment. You can share this video. All those things also have great value. But if you want to support monetarily, I just gave you the ways. I love and appreciate you very much. I will see you next time. Until then, be genuine. Get at me, Chris Murphy. And take care of one another.